Greetings from sunny Orlando, Florida. I am Lady Shasha, the mistress of the snark. And this is Hey Internet, it's the horror tag. This tag was created by Hey Internet, it's Eric. Thank you so much for tagging me on this, Eric. I'll put his channel in the description box. This tag is a little bit different. He gave specific categories, and then you answer the category. So what I'll do is I'll read the category and then I'll read my answer. The first one is Scariest Slasher Villain. I love slasher movies, but the big three, Freddy, Jason, Michael, no longer scare me. When I was a kid, Freddy creeped me out, but not anymore. Other slashers, like from The Burning, Pieces, newer ones like Chrome Skull from Laid to Rest or Victor Crowley from Hatchet, never scared me either. Still, slasher is one of my favorite subgenres to watch. So I'm going to do something a little different. For me, the scariest slasher villain is Kayako. Wait, stick with me. She is a supernatural slasher. Freddy Krueger is technically a supernatural slasher as well. And Candyman. When it comes to Japanese supernatural slashers, Sadako gets all of the play when Kayako is the scariest. She pops up staring at you over your bed. She might even be in bed with you. She has a little boy named Toshio who sounds like a cat. That's some scary shit. Plus the sound she makes coming down the stairs. I literally have an opening to the attic in my closet that has never been opened as long as I've been in this house, because that's how Kayako comes out to get you. Let me tell you a short story time about how I discovered Kayako. This is a VCD. It's a format that I'm not sure still exists. The way it works is, because it has a smaller space than a DVD, the movie is on 2 discs. It'll be one is the first half of the movie and the other one is the second half of the movie. And that's what VCDs are. Now, back in the day when I was living in Connecticut, we used to have to take the Metro North down into the city to find movies like this. These were not available in the video store where I was in Connecticut. So you get on the Metro North, go down to the city, go down by Canal or Bowery or maybe some other place in Chinatown, and you would find movies. Now, at that time, I had just gotten the movie Tomi. I don't know if you guys remember that. It's an old Japanese horror movie. I don't know what year it came out, maybe 98, 99-ish. But I saw Tomi and I liked it, so I went back to the same place and they had this movie called Ju-On. Had no idea what it was about. Hadn't heard anything about it, so I was not ready. When I first started watching it, it was the day I had my wisdom teeth out, and I got home and I was still a little bit lifted off of the anesthesia, and they told me to take the painkillers that were prescribed to me before the anesthesia wears off so that my mouth wouldn't hurt. And so I'm sitting there watching Ju-On for the first time, and when Kayako came down the stairs doing that, I freaked out and turned it off. I couldn't deal. So anyways, she still scares me. Well, except for in that one movie where it was Sadako versus Kayako, because that was a horror comedy. For the next one, I don't have physical media for it because it's worst. It's the worst sequel in a franchise, and I mean, I probably don't keep the worst sequels. Unless I'm not that much, am I that much of a completionist? I don't think I'm, no, I am not. Because I think I only have the first 3 Nightmare on Elm Street movies actually on physical copies. How do I keep introducing this? A part of me wants to say, and the category is worst sequel in a franchise realness. Let's see. Is the one where they went to space? Or the one where the detective was looking for the engineer? Or the one with the office worker who didn't know he was dead? Or the one with the journalist that went to Europe looking for the VHS cult? Or was it the one with the gamers that went to a rave in a mansion? The one where Pinhead was this guy instead of Doug Bradley and was hastily made to keep the rights? Or was it the one that I turned off after 20 minutes that was on Netflix? Because, you know, what the fans of the Hellraiser series really enjoy the most about it is the police procedural elements and lots of typing. Lots and lots of typing. Yeah, that's exactly what these movies are meant to be about. So if you haven't guessed it, my worst movie in a sequel is every Hellraiser movie after 3. I mean, 3 wasn't great, but at least it was still conceived as a Hellraiser movie and not just some random horror script that they shoehorned Pinhead and the Cenobites into for 5 minutes and then called it a Hellraiser movie. The next one is horror movie you wish more people talked about. I'm going to say Eyes of Fire. This is a horror classic that too few people talk about. I spoke at length about this in my Eyes of Fire review, which I paired with The Witch for a double feature review. The only place you can watch it is on YouTube. It's a VHS rip, but it's still worth the watch for the story, the scares, and the setting. It deserves an HD restoration and re-release. Tubi, Shudder, help us out. Get us a great copy of this to watch because it's so good and it deserves so much more respect than it gets. The next one is horror remake that is better than the original. This has 80s remake all over it. Back in the day, we had The Blob, Cat People, Invaders from Mars, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That was 1978, but close enough. And The Fly. But I'm gonna go with John Carpenter's The Thing because the movies that I just mentioned, their original versions were all pretty fun. I used to watch the original Fly on Spine Tingler Theater when I was a kid. That's why when the remake came out, I asked my mother to take me to see it on my birthday. But the original Thing from Another World was just alright. So the margin by which John Carpenter's The Thing is so much greater than the original, I have to give it to that. The next one is horror film that didn't live up to the hype. Trying to get my drive back. A lot of YouTubers know what it feels like when you're in the middle of recording a video and your memory card is full. So the next one is horror film that didn't live up to the hype. Terrifier. I really enjoyed the short that Art the Clown originally was in the anthology film All Hallows Eve. So when it was announced that there was going to be a standalone film, I was interested. When I watched it, check my review. It's on my Clownathon playlist. The TLDR is that the writer/director really should have studied slasher movies, specifically from the time period of 1975 to 1985, because mistakes were made. The lighting was terrible, and don't give me, oh, they had a low budget. A lot of horror movies have low budget. Most of what we grew up watching had a low budget. But right now, in the 21st century, it has never been this easy to get filmmaking equipment. As a matter of fact, I would say a lot of people have more equipment than they know what to do with. The issue is the skills, or I should say, what they don't have is the drive to learn how to use the equipment that they have. How can you say you're a fan of slasher movies and then make a slasher movie that looks like it was made by a person who's only seen 1 or 2 slasher movies in their life? Anyway, the next one is favorite horror animal. This was hard. I narrowed it down to Church from Pet Sematary, Damien's Rottweiler, the cat from Cat's Eye, and the birds from The Birds. Then I remembered Clovis from Sleepwalkers. Clovis and his cat posse were the heroes of the movie. So that's my favorite horror animal. The next one is favorite horror book that isn't by Stephen King, which is really hard because Stephen King, Stephen King, Stephen King, Stephen King, Stephen King, Stephen King. I got Clive Barker, Octavia E. Butler, Frank Herbert, another Clive Barker. Dean Koontz. Don't forget about Dean Koontz. Neil Gaiman. But, I have her book buried underneath stuff. The book that I'm going to mention is actually buried underneath stuff. Look how prepared I am. I'm going to say Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire. And I'm not going to dig the book out because, like I said, my memory card died. I'm already irritated. I should have had the book prepared. Oh well, this is how we're going to do this right now. Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice is one of the best book to movie adaptations, with the exception of casting a middle-aged Antonio Banderas to play the character Armand, who is only supposed to be 15 years old. Does this look 15 to you? That's why he was so upset when he saw Claudia. He was pissed that he was turned into a vampire at 15 and had to live his entire life in adolescence, and lamented about how messed up that was to be in perpetual youth, even as you age. Claudia was even younger, and he knew that she would become increasingly angry about her situation and more dangerous. The next one is favorite fire stunt in a horror movie. I chose the one in Swamp Thing. There is a fire stunt in Swamp Thing where he is fighting the villain's henchman in his lab, and he catches on fire, and then while on fire, he runs up the stairs, out the door, down the dock, and then jumps into the swamp. R.I.P. Wes Craven. People often forget that he wrote and directed Swamp Thing. The next one is horror film that you feel only you enjoy, and I'm going to say The Howling 3: The Marsupials. I think that people didn't give it a chance because it was a drastic tonal shift. The first 2 Howling movies were straightforward horror movies, whereas the third one was a horror comedy, and I don't think people were prepared for that. I wasn't bothered by the change, but then I also love Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. Anyway, I love that it was set in Australia. It featured Aboriginal characters, and werewolf nuns are funny. It had a great soundtrack as well. I like the music in it. The next one is coolest looking creature that was never human. I'm going to go with Syl from Species. She was designed by H.R. Geiger, who also designed the xenomorph in Alien. She may be mistaken for a human, but she's not. She is an alien who can assume a humanoid form. She was conceived to have transparent skin, but I don't think they were able to fully realize this vision with the special effects and budget that they had at the time. Her design is still really, really cool. The next one is a horror movie that you did not expect to like, but ended up enjoying. For this one, I'm going to say The Wolf of Snow Hollow. When I saw the trailer for it, I was just, man, it didn't really do much for me. But the movie ended up being really cool. I've actually watched it twice. The way I would describe it is if David Lynch made a werewolf movie set in Twin Peaks. It's probably one of my favorite horror movies of 2020. And the last one is most memorable horror movie ending. A lot of people might say Saw, The Sixth Sense, or a classic like Psycho. I almost chose Sleepaway Camp, which has an ending that is simultaneously iconic and problematic. But I'm gonna go with The Final Friday, Jason Goes to Hell. Picture it, East Harvard, Connecticut, 1990s. This is one of the first 2 slasher movies I actually got to see in the movie theater. Now growing up, my parents took us to see horror movies, but they were mostly paranormal or supernatural horror movies, science fiction horror movies, and action horror movies, but never really slasher movies. I think they just didn't really like slasher movies themselves. So I had to discover slasher movies through the magic of cable television and the video store. And that's why I basically had to wait until I was a teenager to finally go and see these movies in the movie theater. And this was the second one that I went to see. Now stay with me because what I'm about to say will come back around to it. I went to the movies to go see Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, even though I still technically wasn't old enough to go see that either. But when the kids that work at the box office and our movie theater ushers go to school with you, they kind of look the other way when it comes to checking ID. So anyways, we were all excited that we went to go see the final, was it Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, in 3D, by the way, which was only like 3D the last 10 minutes of the movie, I think. But anyways, we were all excited and we saw that, and then about a year later, The Final Friday, Jason Goes to Hell comes out. So everyone's still kind of riding off of that Final Nightmare as well. So we're all excited. We're in an audience. The movie ends and the camera cuts to Jason's mask sitting there in the dirt, and then the wind starts to slowly blow the dirt off the mask. And just as the audience is settling in that this is the end of the series, Freddy's glove comes up out of the ground and grabs Jason's mask, and the crowd lost their shit. Like, the only thing that's come closest to that is when Cap said Avengers Assemble. It was like the same type of thing. Mind you, this is back in the 90s, so we had no spoilers. We had internet. I mean, we had like, there was chat rooms, AOL Messenger, Black Planet, message boards that look kind of the same way Reddit looks today. Somebody explain why Reddit still looks the same as like a 90s message board. I have no clue. But there wasn't like a social media platform like Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok that could spoil the movie. So this was a complete surprise to see Freddy's glove come up and grab Jason's mask. It was a you just had to be there moment. Plus it was meant to tease the Freddy vs. Jason movie, which ended up being in development hell for a good 10 years because we didn't get to see it until 2003. So those are my answers for Hey Internet, It's Eric, the horror tag. Thank you again, Eric, for tagging me. And this is who I'm going to tag. Nightwatch Zone and Coriander, Watch This Now, and Blake Bergen, Brain Mix, Horror Deconstruction, O Magnus Batman, Morbid Heart Designs, Horror Retrospective, False Proxy Sessions, Q Reviews, and Rotted Reviews. If I did not tag you in this video, most likely I tagged you on the 2 tag videos that I did before this one, or I'm tagging you on the one I'm doing after this because I'm doing 4 all together. But still, if you find that I tagged you on a different video and you'd rather do this one, go for it. Everyone that's watching this video, consider yourself tagged, and that's including the people in the comments. Go ahead and write, if you want to, the answers to each of these questions in the comments. I'd love to see what you have to say. Thank you for making it to end this video. Bye.
Boy, get the bad guy, get the bad guy, get the bad guy. Come on, Clovis. Here we go. Get that motherfucker! All right. Good boy, Clovis. Yeah, that's a good boy.
Hey, did you know that I work for tips now? You could hit me up on Venmo or Cash App. While I'm happy to receive the type of coin that jingles, I love to receive the type that folds. Somebody show these people where the subscribe button is. They don't know what they're doing.